one of my favorite games in the whole universe is Starcraft, and the original came out in 1998. Um, so in 1998, RTS was like in a weird spot where like you'd sometimes have games where like you could only control like one dude at a time, and then you had others where um, like things were just weird. Everything was weird. But StarCraft came along and changed a lot of stuff. And I'm not talking about any of that because I'm mad about the story, and that's the only thing that we're going to talk about. Um, so StarCraft opens like I love StarCraft 1. I love Brood War. I love everything about 1998 StarCraft because the way that it starts is you start from like the most normal race. There's three species that you could choose from, which are the Terrans, which are basically people from Earth, but they've changed a little bit because of being in space all the time. And we're not getting into that. It's not even important. But then you have like these bug creatures called the Zerg, and then you have basically space elves if they didn't have ears or mouths, which are the Protoss. And so the beginning of the story is like you're like a space ranger, you're like a marshal or something like that, and you go and you meet your new best friend Jim Raynor, and the two of you are like, wow, there's some wacky stuff going on over here. So you go, you're on a desert planet and there's bugs everywhere, and there's so many bugs that your boss is like, hey, I'm on vacation this week, nobody's coming to like rescue you from the bugs, good luck, asshole. And that sucks. So some other dude who's like really suspiciously like excited to talk to you is like, I'll rescue you, don't worry about it, there's no price I will extract from you for this service. Foreshadowing is a narrative device. um, so on your way to leaving the planet, he's like, I want to go investigate this like place where they were doing science, don't worry about it, I'm sure the science is fine. Foreshadowing is the narrative device. So you like find this little CD disc, and he's like, I'm gonna look at the CD disc. Meanwhile, we're gonna launch a rebellion because the people who were your boss were called the Confederacy. So they're not great people. But it turns out on the disc, you discover that there's this device that they were planning on building that's like this big, like a bug zapper, but if instead of zapping the bugs just all came to one place and killed a bunch of people. It's like that. So instead of the Confederacy having this weapon, you use it because you're the good guys, right? It's fine if you're killing Confederates with the big bug zapper, except the bugs kill everybody. So after doing this a couple of times, your main characters are expressing some "are we the baddies" sentiments, and Jim Raynor, who's your buddy, has met his girlfriend Kerrigan. And Kerrigan can like read minds. She's like psychically enabled as a person, and their first interaction with each other was her reading his mind, and he was thinking about her naked or something, and she calls him a pig, and he's like, I didn't even say anything yet, haha. How could you know I was staring at your boobs? And that's great. It's a great basis for a relationship. So to no one's surprise, the big bug attraction device is used one more time, and Kerrigan seems to die in the process of this, and we don't know where she goes, but Jim Raynor's like, you know what, fuck the Confederacy, fuck this other guy who became our boss, fuck these people, we're going and doing our own thing. So you and he like fuck off and go and do your own thing, and that is the end of like the first act of StarCraft. And part of what I really like about StarCraft 1 is it will set up a bunch of characters, and you don't know who the story is willing to kill. And this doesn't seem like a big deal, but compared to where we get in StarCraft 2, where like if a character's introduced, they're invincible and nothing is ever going to happen to them, it's like really nice. It's really cool that like we can learn something about a character, and if they fuck up, they die, or if they believe somebody who was lying to them, they probably get screwed. So anyways, the next campaign, we're the bug people, and like people talk. Oh my god, Gray.
I'm sorry, I had to.
You're right, it's true. We're the bug people, and so the bug people didn't kill Kerrigan, they kidnapped her, and they're turning her into like a half bug, half person, and that's kind of fucked up, but she seems like really into it. She's like really down for it when she wakes up. She's like, it fucking rules to be a bug person. I love this. Your boss, when you're the bug people, is the Overmind, which is basically like the concentration of this hive mind thingy, and you're just kind of like an extension of it, which is cool in concept, because like it does allow certain bits of itself to have some sort of amount of free will. I don't know, whatever, it's complicated, doesn't really matter. But a lot of what you're dealing with as the bug people is fighting against the space elves. And the thing that you like start, because you're the bad guys in this situation, is the invasion of a space elf planet. And the whole reason that it turns out to like go pretty well in your favor, which you find out next act, is because the space elves are so busy arguing about if it's honorable to kill bugs or whatever, that they're like, they can't even tie their shoes and like leave the house without arguing with each other about like if they're acting honorable or not. So even though they've got literally like lightsabers and stuff, they're like miserably losing this fight on their own home planet, which is just hilarious. And a big part of the reason I love Starcraft is because each of the three races is so different that even their societies are like succeeding or failing because of the differences. It's really, really good. And a big part of it is kind of borrowing from Warhammer 40k, because StarCraft was originally supposed to be licensed by Games Workshop, but the contract was dropped for whatever reason. So StarCraft in a lot of ways is legally distinct Warhammer 40k, which I think is fine. So this is basically the base game. Like once you have played the Space Elves and you try to defend the planet, but it doesn't go so hot, it's like StarCraft 1, the original, is over. 6 months later, still in 1998, they released an expansion. And Brood War is so sick. It is one of my favorite single-player campaigns for a video game ever. Oops, I like bumped my mouse. Hi, Pendles. We do a little spin move, sorry. So Brood War takes all these characters that it set up, and like some people were fucked up, some people were like lied to, some people died a little bit in the original, but Brood War turns everything up to 11. Kerrigan, you know, like after like the conclusion of defending your planet as the Space Elves is you kill the Overmind, which should make the Zerg like chaotic and disorganized, but there's still so many like backups included in this alien race that like they're actually doing okay and still like miserably beating the Space Elves because the Space Elf like government couldn't stop arguing with itself. So Brood War opens and Kerrigan's like, you know what? Maybe it's not so pog being a bug person. Now that I can think for myself, I kind of hate it here. And you know, even though her and Jim, well, Jim was still making like googly eyes at her, even though she was now a bug lady. Like she literally has like spikes growing out of her and stuff like that. And he's like, I don't know how, but you got hotter to me. But over the course of Brood War, the reason Brood War is called Brood War is because it's entirely about Kerrigan working behind the scenes or sometimes directly in front of the player and like orchestrating the deaths of like a lot of named characters. And like at one point she kills Jim Raynor's best friend, and he, in a dialogue that is like 3 minutes long. Like, he vows to kill her. He's gone from, like, I'm googly-eyed at you to, like, I don't know what you've become, but you're not the girl whose boobs I thought about. So, I'm going to be the person who puts you in the ground.
That's a banger line. He says that verbatim.
Yeah, he says exactly that. I don't know anything about Dune except I watched the movie that came out with Gar Kit, and I was just confused. I don't really understand Dune. I should maybe read it. Anyways, like, a big part of what I really like about Brood War is so much of it is about Kerrigan, because she's such an evil character that they're willing to let her be awful. In the final mission's, like, setup dialogue, she literally calls herself Queen Bitch of the Universe. Verbatim. She says that. It's fucking awesome. And when we get to StarCraft 2, there ends up being this, like, weird effect, because, like, 12 years passed between StarCraft 1 and StarCraft 2, and it's like none of the people who wrote the original story were still there, and also nobody played StarCraft 1, because the opening cutscene of StarCraft 2 is Jim Raynor sadly drinking at a bar, lovingly stroking an old Polaroid picture of Kerrigan before she was a bug person. And considering that his final appearance in StarCraft 1 was, I'm going to be the guy who kills you, and then, like, 5 years pass, and he's sadly sitting in a bar drinking, and he's like, God, but her boobs were so cool, though. I just, like, I don't know what happened. Like, I don't know how you got to this point. So, whereas StarCraft 1, you had shorter campaigns, but you jumped between the 3 races, like, pretty quickly, and in not, like, necessarily a super linear order. StarCraft 2 is a very linear story, and it came out in 3 parts, and it starts with the Terran, then it's the Zerg, then it's the Protoss. And of the 3, I think the Terran one is the most, like, okay. It still has, like, this problem where, like, a lot of characters are introduced and they're not explored and nothing really happens to them. There's a guy who, like, in the first cutscene is so obviously going to betray you, and then he does at the end of the game, and Jim shoots him, and you're like, yeah, I expected this. Like, I'm not surprised by anything. But, like, StarCraft 2, your whole objective, Jim's entire objective is he discovers these alien artifacts, and he basically, like, finds out that, like, he could probably use these to unzergify Kerrigan, and so that becomes, like, his goal. And he's warned by a character from the first game who's basically just on, like, I'm here for the plot duty. He's like, whatever you do, Kerrigan can't die. I'm gonna show you what happens in the future if she does die. And for what it's worth, I think, like, a flash into the future, if, like, it's the worst timeline, is actually a really cool concept. And it's a part of the reason that I don't think the Terran campaign of StarCraft 2 is terrible. I think there's a lot of really cool ideas. But the fact that Jim is just like, oh, whatever, there's an opening, like, news line in StarCraft 2 that Kerrigan has, like, recently killed 7 billion people. And, like, this is just never brought up. Like, he just doesn't think about it. He's just like, but I like her boobs. I don't care if she kills billions of people. I'm mad. And it's like, it's so maddening because, like, that's his entire, like, motivating purpose in StarCraft 2 is I just want to see her boobs again. And it drives me crazy. So at the end of StarCraft 2, you unzergify her. And he like picks her up and she's naked because apparently it also dematerialized her clothing for some reason. And StarCraft 2 Heart of the Swarm, which is, I swear to God, the worst StarCraft 2 content. And if anyone ever tells me that it's their favorite, I disavow them as a person. Heart of the Swarm is so garbage because now here we are. Kerrigan has been de-Zergified, and she's like chilling out in this like facility so that they can study like what's going on with her, because she's still able to psychically control the Zerg even though she isn't one anymore. So the immediate conflict that's kind of set up here is, how does she reckon with the fact that she claimed to have free will during Starcraft Brood War, but then during Starcraft 2 she claimed to be like mind controlled by a different force, but now here we are in Heart of the Swarm, she can still control the Zerg, and spoiler alert, after like the first mission, Jim Raynor gets kidnapped, so she immediately, I'm not joking, no hesitation, starts becoming a mass murdering psychopath again. She just starts killing, and she doesn't stop killing. And you might think like, oh, maybe she's just killing bad guys, like whoever kidnapped Jim. There is a mission at the beginning of Heart of the Swarm where your explicit task is to prevent ships of refugees from escaping. And if too many refugees escape from you, you lose. There's an achievement for no refugees escaping from you. If no one gets away, it's an achievement. Oh my god, it drives me insane. What the fuck is going on with Heart of the Swarm? So then, this isn't enough for her. She's still like partially human at this point. So she's like, you know what? I need to be more powerful in order to get my boyfriend back, because he's been here with me through thick and thin, through genocide and more genocide. So I'm gonna become more Zergified again. She goes to a jungle planet, and she discovers that like the origin of the Zerg is that they were like basically a collection of fast evolving like volatile species that were then uplifted in order to be used as a weapon by some mysterious off-screen force that keeps being hinted at. It's the same people who controlled Kerrigan, but we don't know that yet. Anyways, so while she's on this jungle planet, she jumps into like a pool of Zergification and re-Zergifies herself. And then like not 2 missions later, she's like called up on her cell phone by Jim's friends, and they're like, hey, I hope you haven't done anything you immediately regret. We found the prison ship that Jim is on. Also, for some reason, you didn't think that he was taken prisoner. You thought he died because there was a news broadcast run by the joke like Fox News Network station that they had killed him, and you believed it. Also, during all of the first StarCraft 2 game, it's literally a joke that this is Fox News Network and they keep lying. But the first news story you saw in Heart of the Swarm, you believed. You fucking stupid ass. Anyways. So Kerrigan and the boys bust Jim out of jail, and there's a cutscene that, like, on YouTube, I hate going to the comment section of, because everyone's like, oh, this is so powerful, this was my favorite part of Heart of the Swarm, this Blizzard at its best, oh my gosh. So there's a cutscene where she like kicks down the jail door, and Jim sees her for the first time. And at first he like hallucinates that she's still a person. And then like he like blinks his eyes and like, oh no, she's a Zerg person. Oh no. So like this tacitly implies that like she chose to be a Zerg again. And I guess he probably also realizes this means that she's genocided a lot of people, because she gives him his gun and she's like, I understand if you can't forgive me, and like takes his gun and like points it at her own forehead, and then he like does like a mean growly I'm a straight dude face and pulls the trigger, but then it's revealed, oh, he just shot the wall next to her. He has forgiven her for being a mass genociding freak. Love can bloom on a battlefield, I guess.
Hooray!
So then, like, Heart of the Swarm concludes with like, you go and you murder the Emperor, who like, he's the Emperor because he was originally your boss in StarCraft 1 during the Terran part, where like he's the guy who like threw Kerrigan under the bus. I didn't really talk about him very much.
Oh,
I think
no.
he's cool, but in StarCraft 2 he sucks because everything sucks in StarCraft 2. And then because there's been all these rumblings in the background of like something bad is gonna happen, Kerrigan, I'm not joking, she's not been demonstrated to be able to fly before this moment, but after they blow up their like previous ex-boss, she's holding hands with Jim, and she's like, I have to go. And then she literally floats away the same way like a dandelion seed floats away from a flower. She just like up and like DuckTales space song like doo dee dee doo dee dee doo like floats away. And I don't fucking understand.
Oh.
So then they're like, okay, well now we know there's like some extra threat out there that it goes beyond like people who are being shitty to each other, which I thought was the biggest strength of StarCraft 1. Because even though these people were different species, and some of these things were very powerful like creatures or whatever, nothing is like an incomprehensible god. There's nothing that's like, I am more ancient than the universe, I'm so cool, I'm so badass, I'm a final boss. StarCraft 2's like, well, if I don't have a final boss, what was the whole point? So there's gonna be a final boss now. So you start the Protoss campaign of StarCraft 2, and for some reason, we're like, I don't remember, it's either like 8 or 12 years after the events of Brood War, the Protoss still haven't retaken their original home planet that was invaded. They've been sitting on a space platform, like staring at their planet, being like, one of these days, I'm gonna take that planet back. I want to be there so bad. And like, they haven't until like just now, for some reason. So when they do, things go really bad. Because we now are revealed, like, who the secret big bad is that's been in the background. And he was very cool when he was hinted at in StarCraft 2's Terran campaign, because only after he had like destroyed everything in the universe does he say out loud, if Kerrigan hadn't died, I wouldn't have won. Which is really funny to say, like after you've like had your victory, like list out the reasons that like you could have lost, so that if somebody happens to time travel, they can be like, oh yeah, okay, I'll make sure that we don't do that in my timeline. I gotcha. It's a cool idea what they go for with this dude, but basically there is a progenitor race that is a fourth race that exists in the StarCraft universe called the Xel'Naga, and they created the Protoss and the Zerg. There's not really any suggestion that they created the Terrans, which I think is really funny. So like maybe actually God created people and then like aliens created other aliens, but we don't know how humans were created. I don't know, I think it's pretty funny. But the Xel'Naga created the Zerg and the Protoss because there's this like infinite cycle of like eventually if they create two rival races, the two of them will interbreed for some reason, create a hybrid, and then that will become the form that the progenitor race takes, and then they do the whole thing again. So this cycle was about to happen again because the Protoss and the Zerg, like a bunch of hybrids start showing up as like a background threat to all the normal campaign stuff, which is a cool way to incorporate it as an idea, but the problem that I ultimately have with it is Amon, who's the final boss of StarCraft 2, is so comically evil that it just doesn't make any sense. He's basically a Diablo villain in StarCraft, because what happened was, after they had uplifted the Zerg, and they knew that they were going to uplift the Protoss so that they could create the next, like, form that the Xel'Naga were going to take, he was like, I'm gonna do something crazy. I'm a little twisted fucking psychopath. So he unleashed the Zerg on the Xel'Naga and killed all of the rest of his people, so that it was just him. And then he was like, now, as my final act, I'm gonna continue to do the thing that we are doing anyways, which is just sit here and wait for the Zerg and Protoss to interact with each other and then take the form of like a hybrid. I don't know why he did it. Why the fuck did he kill everybody else? Like, if you were gonna do everything that your people normally do anyways, what was the point? I don't get it. So, besides being a mustache twirling villain, because he's this big ultimate big bad, we have to have our ultimate good. And because we said in StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty, which is the Terran campaign, that Kerrigan is instrumental to defeating Amon, it turns out she has anime girl powers. So her final form, she becomes like a weird like angel that's like glowing and orange. And she fires, I swear to fucking Christ, in a sci-fi game, a super mega like Kamehameha at Amon in the face in order to defeat him. StarCraft 2 credits roll, it's over. We went from like people are making friends and betraying each other, there's like secret alliances, we've got like subterfuge and shit, to there's a chosen one, she fires death lasers, and there's an ultimate evil bad guy sitting in a shadow realm. Are you fucking kidding me, dude? Like, why did it become Diablo at the end? It's so stupid! She literally uses the same, like, wizard laser beam from Diablo 3. I can't do it. I don't have a strong enough heart. I don't know why they did this. Anyways, that's StarCraft and that's StarCraft 2, and I hate StarCraft 2.
My biggest takeaway from that was, goddamn, her tits must have been incredible.
Yeah.
They must have been great. Forgive genocide. They must have
Oh
been
my
so
god.
He's up ahead.
So what we have learned today is that the important thing we've learned today is that genocide is okay as long as your tits are big enough.
Get you a man who likes you through killing billions of people.
Yeah.
Get you somebody who cares about you as much as Jim cares about Kerrigan.
Yeah, that is the takeaway
Also,
from today.
In the post credits, they like do a couple of like slideshows of like where the characters end up going. And sure enough, like, Jim is sitting in the same bar, sadly stroking, I'm not joking, the same Polaroid picture of Kerrigan. And she shows up behind him and is like, you ready to get out of here, cowboy? And then he gets up and he says the line that like they're obsessed with repeating, which is like, it's the equivalent of Fallout's like, war never changes. He's like, hell, it's about time. Because that's what they used when they first teased StarCraft 2, like, finally coming out in 2010. So they're like, oh, we have to call back to it. Anyways, if you think Blizzard's writing is good, you're a goldfish who just likes references, and you're, like, going to clap your hands every time somebody says the recognizable trademark line. I don't trust you.